Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, it's a Wednesday, the 28th of December, 2022. Only 3 days left to the end of the year and the end of the quarter. And a lot of activity here at Giga Texas today. Two things I'm going to talk about in the intro before we get into a review of the electrical switchyard. And I think you'll enjoy that because we're going to be looking back to 2022 and then forward to 2023 using a site plan document. But the two things I want to talk about is you can see here on that southwest side over where the West Support Facility is being under construction and doing all the earthwork. You can see here that they're starting to apply the geotextile membranes, which is an important step in stabilizing and strengthening the soil so that they can do construction a little bit later. The other thing I want to show you is right here is take a look at the activity on the south end of the building today. A very familiar shape is starting to re-emerge on that south end as they continue to install the corrugated steel storm water pipes underneath the area where they removed all that concrete. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into a discussion of the electrical switchyard. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
For today's discussion, we will talk about the electrical switchyard and look back in 2022 to see all the changes that have happened month to month from March to December. And then we'll look forward using the site plan documents to show what is under construction now, what will be under construction, and what we can expect to see in 2023. So let's first start off with the month-to-month comparison and look back at 2022, and then we'll get into the discussion for the future. Starting off in March, we can see how the construction site looked at that time. We had the lined pond that was filled and the old bag plant was present. In April, they were getting ready to remove the bag plant and the pond, and by the time we get to May, we can see the pond has been removed, the bag plant has been disassembled, and they're starting to do major construction. In June, this is how the construction site looked as they were doing the initial grade work, and the pond is completely gone. In July, we can see most of the grade work was completed up to this particular point, preparing for August, where we see all of these lines. These are the lines for the underground grid for the grounding of the electrical substation. September shows final grading work is underway. October, some of the initial steel assembly of the structure and the first of the A-frames. In November, 4 of the A-frames have been completed and more of the construction process underway. And then the 26th of December, this is about how it appears at present day. So quite a bit of changes over a 10-month period of time. So let's look at the site plan now and see what's in store. Looking back at August quickly, again, this is that grid pattern that was put on the construction site. This is for the grounding rods and mesh, and then it will be covered by a surface layer, as you can see by the image on the right-hand side of the screen. So the site plan shows how the area is organized into 3 different bays, 1, 2, and 3, shown in purple, green, and yellow, and you can see that overlaid onto the image. The entire construction site is 231,500 square feet, or about 21,500 square meters, or about 5.31 acres, or about 2.1 hectares in size. Also, according to the site plan, 2 of the bays, the purple and the green long ones, are for the power from the grid, and that will be powering the factory directly. The orange bay is for the future megapack installation that will be happening nearby. In this image, we take a look at how the eventual roadways and the water detention pond will appear once completed. You can see how that's depicted in the site plan document in the bottom right and how it looks overlaid to the current site. In this image, we take a look at the cable tray trenching and installation and how it will appear. The bottom right shows you how that cable tray has the primary line right next to that green control room with 4 sort of fingers heading into the electrical switchyard, and the above image shows how that looks with it overlaid. With this image, we can see that 6 of the eventual 7 A-frame towers have been installed, and if you can see 7, this is where that will be located. This will be on bay number 3, which will service the megapack once it's completed. In this image, we can see that 2 large transformers in purple shown in the left-hand side of the screen, 1 and 2, will be installed, and there will eventually be 8 large circuit breakers. Currently, only 6 of them, 1 through 6, are installed, and the 7th and 8th will be installed as necessary to connect to the eventual megapack. And finally, I'll give you this clean image of the site from the 26th of December and the site plan document in the bottom right, just so you can see how it compares now with the planning document. And if you like, you can pause the presentation to take a look at these more in depth. So I hope you enjoy this brief look back at 2022, how the electrical switchyard construction site has changed and how it looks today, and looking at the site plan documents, what we can expect to see in the future. I hope that you found this look back and site plan discussion helpful. So now let's get into the drone and fly around the site and take a look at what we see today. A special thank you to all of my outstanding patrons for your continued encouragement and support. Patreon members get access to hundreds of high-resolution photos, previews of the future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron using this link, which is also in the video description. Please also consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. This morning we'll start off on the southwest side across the highway on this beautiful morning. And as you can see, the west expansion of the warehouse on wheels continues to grow with all of these trailers. And on the north end, the amount of materials being stored here continues to decrease. And we'll get a closer view of that in a second. What I want to show you here in this clearing location where they've been doing a lot of earthwork, they're now installing this black material. This is called geotextile membrane. And it's a material that is put down to help strengthen and prevent the soil from moving around too much underneath construction. It's permeable to water as well. And they'll put that down and then they'll continue to fill the dirt on top of it. And once it's all completed, you won't really know that it's there, but it's necessary to sustain any heavy construction that we're expecting here in the West Support Facility. As you can see, a lot of the earthwork has resumed. They're continuing to trying to fill in this last remaining pond on the lower left-hand side of the screen, and they're continuing to bring in more dirt to fill up the ponds and the hills that used to be in this location. And they're also preparing the grade for more of that geotextile membrane, and then more fill dirt, and then continued to compact it down until it's ready for construction. As we approach back, this is another angle of where they are putting in this geotextile membrane. This material was used extensively underneath the foundation of the main factory as well. If you recall, my video is about 2 years ago or so. But as we continue to approach the expansion of the warehouse on wheels, you can get a good idea of the number of trailers that are moving over to this section. Now, it seems like most of these trailers are the empty ones. The filled ones are being brought in on the east side, but I'm not sure if that's the flow they've decided on or if it's just what is apparent at this point in time. As we approach the materials that are continuing to be stored here, as I mentioned, you can see that it's been reduced quite a bit. Now, on the bottom right-hand side where the arrow is, this is the bridge crane rails that were removed from the casting machine structure. And these green items here where the arrow was, these are actually load levelers. And I'll show you in a few minutes where these are going to be installed on the west side of the factory. You can see more of the materials and a lot of these containers that store some of the parts for later, and then some more of the piping and some other steel components. But as we approach the west side of the main factory, I'll give you a good view looking back towards the east of how this appears today, and then we'll prepare to go across the highway, and then we'll start up the tour on the west side from there. Now that we're back across the highway, I wanted to show you these receiving doors and give you an idea of how these look. You can see the black doors have been installed, and those green load levelers were installed here. Those were stored on that west side where we saw the other green load levelers that I pointed out. And those are going to be used here. These concrete panels, these are temporary panels that were put on when the building was originally constructed. They're about to be removed, and then they're going to use those green load levelers here. What the crews are doing, it looks like they're doing some trenching and some more electrical conduit, and it's preparing this entire section for more concrete to reconfigure this area to support those receiving doors. As we continue farther to the south, I'll give you a quick view of how the west main entrance looks today. You can see some trenching on the bottom right-hand corner. More of the corrugated pipes have been removed from what used to be installed here underneath the concrete. Almost all the concrete has been removed as well, with a few slabs ready to be moved off to this site. And you can see it looks like some fencing just inside the glass doors where they're doing some additional concrete removal inside. So let's continue to move towards the south along the west side of the building, and we'll take a look at what's going on the south end today. As we pass the southwest corner of the building, what I want to show you is directly ahead and then off to the left, a lot of Model Ys, particularly the ones on the left, are being lined up to move over to the east side new vehicle staging and transportation lot. And I'll come back and give you a closer view of that, but you can also see quite a few of the Model Ys being staged here in this temporary lot that still remains. As we fly over the cyber pond, some pretty nice reflections of the beautiful clouds, and you can see the sun just getting ready to pop up over the horizon. But I wanted to show you a closer look at all of the steel and other materials being staged and stored here on either side of this temporary road. And then by that blue crane, you can see more of those solar panels that are just waiting to be moved up onto the roof. As we cross over these steel components, I want to show you the work that's going on here to reconfigure the underground conduits and the electrical wiring, and they've also getting ready to remove these lower power lines that you see directly ahead of us and those two green boxes that are kind of cordoned off. At the bottom of the screen, you can see how the diamond shape of this section is returning, more of the large steel corrugated pipe being installed in the trenches at the bottom of the screen, and then overall how this entire section continues to get a lot of underground work and reconfiguration in preparation to begin some construction here. And with the shape re-emerging, it continues to add credence to the idea that we're going to see a construction of the building on this side here, overall extending at about 450 feet or so from its existing length. And as we continue to the west side, you can see the last remaining sections of concrete that have been saw cut and stacked, waiting for the yard truck to pick them up, and then they'll be moved to about 5 different sites around Giga Texas for temporary storage and other uses. On the left-hand side, you can see more of the trenching and the steel pipes and that splitter box, just the corner of it on the left-hand side. That's the underground water management system. As I mentioned, here's a lot of Model Ys here that have just come out of the factory, some getting supercharged, some all being lined up to drive over to the east side, and you see some more getting supercharged as well. That door that you see on the left-hand side, that is where, as you can just see there, vehicles come out of the factory for the first time after production, and then they begin the process to move over to that east transportation lot. Here we can see that this 90-degree elbow for the underground pipe seems to be nearly completed, and the trenches going underneath the building have been filled in as well. As we continue further towards the east, you can see some trench boxes at the middle and bottom of the screen. Those are used in trenches to prevent the trenches from collapsing in on the workers. And speaking of which, here's some more trench work that's underway on this east side. You can see some of the trench boxes down inside where they're doing the excavation work, and just get an idea of how those function. As we approach the southeast corner of the stamping machine structure, we see more of the AIDA stamping presses, some of the parts, and also later on in the video we'll see more trucks arriving with those white-topped crates with more equipment headed to this direction. I thought I would pull the drone up and back to give you a good high-level view of how the roof and solar panel installation looks from this side of the building. And as you can see, the entire Tesla emblem now has all of the solar panels installed. This brings to a total of about 30,000 solar panels installed right now. Eventually, there will be over 70,000 on the roof per Tesla. So let's continue to pull back, and I want to show you a good higher level view of the entire south end. And you can see how the shape of the building looks like it's continuing to be extended to the south in this big construction area. And this overlay gives you an idea of what I mean by how that familiar shape is returning here. So it'll be really neat to see into the next year what construction is done here. As I continue towards the southeast on a higher angle, we'll just get an idea of how the building looks, the south end looks. Near these power lines and the tower is where they're doing that underground conduit work and preparation to remove all the lower level power lines. And then we'll continue up to the north on the east side of the stamping machine structure, just to give you another idea of all of the materials and components that are here in the crates and the boxes and some of the larger materials next to the walls. All of this is going into the stamping extension portion of the building, where they are building in more of the stamping machine and other metal forming machinery. I would pull back just to show you this temporary parking lot and staging location and how it appears today. And then I also want to proceed further to the north along this road and give you a good look at two of the areas here where they have the concrete removed, and they're continuing to do some more prep work to do some plumbing and then return the concrete here. And this will help finish off these new receiving doors that were added by cutting into the walls. And hopefully we'll see that just after the first of the year. Here we're on top of the body and right roof. I thought I would give you a good view of the work that is ongoing to finish up this section that has been opened up. Some of the HVAC ducting has been installed, and that grate or mesh kind of material that's going to be used to finish off the open section, and you can see some of that already installed. Now, the materials and the equipment underneath were installed quite some time ago, so this is just finishing up that construction. And the open roof is okay because they have a water management system underneath to redirect any rainwater away from that section. As we continue back towards the east over this smaller parking lot, I'll give you some good views as we turn around and head back towards the west. On the bottom of the screen, you can see where they are setting up a test run for some of the new vehicles. You can see the helicopter pad and then quite a bit of Model Ys here. They tend to use this as a temporary staging location while they finish up tests and other checkouts of the vehicles before they're moved over to the new vehicle staging and transportation lot nearby. The 32 superchargers continue to look like they're mostly installed. We're just waiting to see if they install a canopy. And you can see this rework section here right next to the building. It continues to expand. They're doing some more plumbing work, and they're also going to be preparing to add more of that concrete back. This intersection continues to see quite a bit of work, trenching, and some more plumbing being installed into that trench, and then just overall continues to be reconfigured, and I'm very interested to see what this will look like once they are completed. As we turn the drone back towards the northeast, I'll give you a good view of the new car staging and transportation lot and the activity today. At this moment in time, there's one truck that's picking up Model Ys, but there were at least 10 trucks that were queued just outside of Giga Texas to come over here at the time of this filming and later arrived here. I would say that between 10 and 15 trucks picked up Model Ys and departed the site during my time, about an hour and a half of flying here at Giga Texas. So they are definitely moving Model Ys today. So let's proceed up towards the north and we'll get a closer look at what's going on at that electrical switchyard. On the way, I thought I would show you this continued work to add in more of the steel corrugated pipe in this trench to continue to expand the water management on this section of the construction site. You can see more of the pipe that's queued up on the right-hand side of the screen, and on the left-hand side of the screen, the temporary electrical switchyard and some more of the materials that have been brought for the permanent electrical switchyard construction. As we arrive here at the new permanent construction site, we can see that the concrete pads for the transformers still are waiting for the transformers to arrive. 6 of the eventual 7 A-frames have been installed with some additional work to finish them out. The cable tray trench that runs north to south right next to that control room is mostly finished on the east side, and then the fingers that are moving towards the west. There's 2 of them now. There will eventually be 4, and as you can see by that inset, you can compare the diagram to how it looks today. Also, I covered this in depth in the intro, so if you missed that, I would go back and take a look at that as well. Here's a good view of how it looks today with the factory in the background. And as we approach, I'm going to fly over the site looking down to give you a little bit of a different perspective when I normally show you. The cable tray trenches are very evident here. You can see those 2 fingers reaching towards the west. 2 more will be constructed, and then that will complete that cable tray installation. This gives you a good view down at the currently the 6 A-frames, and also here where that concrete pads are for the transformers. And I'm going to sort of pirouette the drone around to let you look down onto this site to get, again, a little bit different perspective, but also just to see how the cable tray trenches, that control room, are configured right now, and the 6 of the circuit breakers with those V-tops that are installed, and quite a bit more of the wiring on those big spools ready for more construction. So overall, quite a bit of activity and progress here at the electrical switchyard. So let's go ahead and move over towards the battery cathode plant and take a look at the progress there today. As we arrive on the west side of the battery cathode plant, take a look at all the steel materials that are being stored here at the bottom of the screen and on the left of the screen. This is overflow steel that is also being stored just to the north of this construction site, and then also to the north of the main plant as well. Here's a good overall view of how the west foundation is appearing today, and I'll come back for a much deeper and closer look in just a second of that. But what I want to show you here is some of the concrete vaults, some of the manhole covers, and a lot of these iron pipes that are stored here waiting for further assembly. Now the black pipes just don't have the white paint or the insulation on them that you see here. And also, one of the things I want to show you is that this crane is actively moving up some segments of pipe, and you can see them on top of this steel structure. And it'll just be continued to have more and more of these pipes installed, suspended underneath this structure, and then eventually connected into the main building as well. So as I turn the drone back to the west, this will give you a really close-in view of how this foundation, all of the footings, some of those bars between the footings, you can see with the formwork there, and you can see with the trenches that that's going to continue that pattern all the way through the structure. You can also see that orange material on 4 of those footings. There was some on the other footings just on the other side of the trench. That has been removed because the concrete is now cured, and you can see the crews getting ready to remove the forms around where the concrete was poured. And with the trenches around this highly dense concrete pier section, we'll see more of those footings continue to be built towards the south. And as mentioned, here's a good closer view. You can see on the left-hand side the orange material, and then the right where it was removed. And also take a look at the size of the workers just to give a good appreciation of the size and the scale of these footings. They are much larger than what it appears from the way the drone looks from the altitude that I'm at. But as I turn around here, you can see that densely stacked portion of the concrete piers and how they are doing some trenching in between some of the piers as well. As I mentioned, here's some more of the steel that's being stockpiled here, ready for that construction to continue. And this is going to be a good view to the north. Also, take a look at all of these birds that are in migration. And I will kind of slow the drone down here and not only look to the north, you can see how this clearing and the staging and material station looks like, but also you're going to get a chance to see more of the birds, a few of them up close and personal here. It's just interesting to see that number of birds flying over the north part of the battery cathode plant. But as I pull the drone back here on the ground, you can see how they are continuing to fill this northern portion of the water detention ponds in and reclaim some of this area for possibly some future construction. This is also a good view of the east side of the battery cathode plant and how it appears today, with some of the materials, an expanding section here where they're putting more materials, and just overall how it appears today. So let's proceed back towards the southwest, towards the warehouse on wheels, to get a good view of how this section appears today. As mentioned, on the west side, they are expanding this there as well with more trailers. It's just that they're running out of space as production continues to ramp. So there's a good view of Giga Texas on this Wednesday morning, the 28th of December. I hope that you enjoyed the information in the intro and the video information as well. Have a great day.